Hello, my name's Allison, and welcome back. So last week, I asked you guys if you had any questions for me, and to leave them in the comments. So for this week, I'll be answering those questions, and drawing my OC trio, Amber, Drakken, and Omen. And after getting through the questions, I'll be talking about my process on this piece. So let's get started. Oh, and if I didn't get to yours, probably meant I already answered it in my last Q&A video. And if I mispronounced your username, I am so sorry. For our first question, it was asked by Flying Onions. Are you doing fine? Drinking water, eating, taking care of yourself? Yeah, I'm doing pretty good. Been taking care of myself and not becoming too focused that I forget to drink and eat. And I hope you're taking care of yourself too. Then Autumn Plays asked, what brush size do you use when you draw the line art? Usually a 30% brush size on Procreate. Then who was your favorite person to draw for the Septic Black Omens? That is between Schneep and Chase. I really enjoy coloring in the black opal for Schneep and figuring out the composition for Chase. And what's the thing you find easy to draw? Hands, I guess. It's between hands and faces, specifically expressions. And who's your favorite Applier Ego? I really like Wilford. Just his pink, bubbly, murderous personality and his color palette. And then what is my favorite color palette? That is, I really like turquoise and copper. I find it the most pretty color combination. And then will you ever draw any of the Applier Egos? For a Speedpaint, maybe, if I find inspiration to do so. But as of right now, it's hard to say. And then these next two questions are on ego shipping. So if you want to skip this part, I'll be leaving a timestamp in the bottom corner. What's your favorite ships from the Septic Egos? Marvel, Septic Eye. Marvin X Jackie. It's my OTP and all-time favorite ship. I've even drawn fan art for the ship a few times on social media. And then do I ship anti-Septicine or Dark Player? No, not really. It's just not my cup of tea, I guess. If anything, I see them as friends. You know, Dark Player is the introvert that gets pulled into the shenanigans that Anti, the extrovert, gets into. So if anything, they're friends who are very confused how they became friends, but they're friends anyway. And then Ashley Walega asked, I love design for stars. Oh, thank you so much. And also a question for the Q&A. How do you find motivation and or inspiration? For motivation, it's always there, but I tend to lose it from time to time if I'm working on an art piece. So what I'll do is either take a break from it and return it to it later, or I imagine what I want it to look like when it's finished, and work on my way on achieving that. And then for inspiration, it's either from other artists' artworks, scrolling through social media, or Pinterest. Maybe even think about how I want certain characters to interact, stuff like that. And then Anxiety Chicken next, how long does it take to draw and color the speed paints you do? I love stars, so cute. Should be friends with the ego, specifically JJ, because I think they'll have a lot in common. And edit, would you do a face reveal? So for the speed paints, it takes me about 4 to 6 hours to draw and color my speed paints. And thank you so much. I'm glad you love stars so much. And yeah, I definitely see JJ and stars being friends. And then for the face reveal, probably not. I don't like taking selfies or videos of myself, so I don't know when it'll happen. Maybe one day. And then Amy Crater asked, I have a question for the Q&A. How come you didn't add Robbie the zombie for the Septic Guy speed paint videos? Honestly, I just completely forgot about him. Yeah. But I have been asked by several people about drawing Robbie, so maybe I'll give him his own unique design one day. And then the Nerdy Wizard asked, I love the character design for stars. He looks really cute. Well, thank you so much. And then question with the Q&A, any tips on drawing an anime? There is a lot into anatomy to learn about, but I highly recommend looking into Proco. Proco is a YouTube channel, and they have a playlist of 117 videos on anatomy. And how I've been learning anatomy recently is by having 2 reference pictures up to try and redraw. One is muscle anatomy and the other is an image of like a shirtless guy here. And you try to figure out where the groups of muscles go on that image of the person, and you redraw that. And Zoe's are asked, is there a certain color palette they use for almost every drawing? Not exactly, it changes from time to time. Right now it's my Marvin's color palette because I have the 2 colors I use for the liner on there. And then Laura Brunell asked, so cute, and the question for the Q&A, how are you? How you learn to draw? What is your LGBT identity? And are you bored with quarantine? So I learned to draw from lots of practice. And for my LGBT identity, I actually have the flags of it on my icon. I'm Ace Arrow. And I'm not actually bored with quarantine yet. I've been drawing the entire time during quarantine and I still really enjoy drawing. The only thing I'm bored about is people not wearing the masks. And then Morningstar Plays asks, alright, question for the Q&A. Can we draw a fan art of your characters? Yes. Whenever anyone draws fan art of my characters, I do cry from joy because they're oh so freaking good. And if you do draw fan art of my characters, please tag me. I would absolutely love to see it. And then Oliwa Cat asked, question for the Q&A. Where do you learn about death omens? So I learned them from the Google. For all my research on death omens, I just search up, death omens, or say, for example, Black Opal Death Omen Origins on Google. And that's how I did a lot of my research for the Death Omen series. And GoldRose3516 asked, this OC is adorable. Oh, thank you. And also here's a question for your Q&A. 2020, your thoughts. It's not great. It's not great. Warm String asked, I've got a question for the Q&A. How do you come up for your OC and Ego designs? They're all pretty distinct and very nice. Oh, thank you so much. So for the Ego designs, what I did was I took the canon design for the Egos, did a bunch of research into fan art to see other people's different designs for them. Then I'll start thinking about what has been done so I don't accidentally copy someone else's design. What hasn't been done so I know what I can mess around with. What's accepted as canon so it's recognizable as the Ego, and what can I use as inspiration from the canon design. And I do a similar thing with original character designs too. Right, Tina Varela asks, what recording equipment and softwares do you use? It's pretty basic stuff. For recording equipment, I use these Bose wired headphones that have a built-in microphone to them, and I use the default Voice Memos app on the iPhone. And to make sure the audio is good, I'll record in a closet and have blankets hanging from a shelf to give a soundproof-ish type wall. Again, it's pretty basic, but I think it gives the quality of the audio good enough that it's listenable. And Hot Day Studios asks, Stars is absolutely adorable. He is so precious. Thank you. And question, what gave you the idea for your Greatest Showman animatic? Did someone inspire you, or was this already an idea you had when doing designs for the Septic Egos? So the inspiration came from listening to The Greatest Show by Panic at the Disco and thinking how well it fit as a fight between Marvin and Nancy. And then just instantly, the first 40 seconds of the animatic popped into my head. And I just instantly started working on it. And those are all the questions. They're really fun to answer, and thank you to everyone who asked them. And I hope the answers were good. And now for the process for this piece. For shading, I start with working on the background and made sure it looks somewhat decent before going into shading the characters. Oh, and something I found out when I started adding highlights was that when I inverted the dark purple on like the overlay layer for the shadows, it created this greenish yellow that seemed to work really well for highlights. So I changed the greenish yellow into more of a yellow orange and use that color as the highlights. And again, still on a overlay layer mode at 50% opacity. And to kind of go into like why I changed it to yellow orange is because for this thing, the light source is the sun. And the sun's light color is a warm color, which means the highlights are going to have a more of a warmer color undertone to them. And for the shadows, because they're parts of where the sun isn't reflecting off of it, it doesn't have that warm color undertone, but rather a cooler color undertone instead. And that is all from me. If you're interested, I'll be uploading this as a print on my Redbubble. I'll have link to that and my other social media profiles in the description below. And one last thing, I'll be posting an animatic this Friday. And next Wednesday, I'll be uploading a voiceover Speedpaint where I go into creating this animatic. And just thank you so much for watching. Hope you're taking care of yourself. Don't overwork yourself either. And have an amazing day.